This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Calling to order the meeting of the Ad Hoc Grant Search Committee for October 18, I believe, at about 2:03 p.m. And we have our members, Kate and Diana, here, and three guests representing the COA, our director, Christina Johnson, our outreach worker, Kate DeSanto, and our board chair, Janet Kane. And as we get started, I don't think we have any open time for the public people hanging out there. So we'll keep on going. I do have, if you'll indulge us, we have one set of minutes I would like to get approved, and this is from 9/21, and I think some of you were in on the meeting anyway, so it might be good. Only Diana and Kate will have a vote, but you guys were part of that meeting, so we'll just kind of scroll through. I just sent it around just now, so you might not have had a chance to look at it, but maybe take a quick gander down here. If there's anything that...
And I did, just so you know, I thought I'd sent the meeting minutes from the 4th, but I did that. I just did that just now, but we can do it next meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to get one of them caught up because I had been putting them off a little bit here. So that's fine. Thank you for doing the minutes as usual. Always very helpful. So yeah, I think this kind of captured the Highland Valley thing here. We had a couple of comments noting that we weren't competitive, et cetera. And there were some ideas of what might have contributed to our lack of acceptance this time around. I don't know if that's okay with everybody or if you'd like to change any wording. And then the SIG grant information is here. And I think that's just pretty much verbatim of what the grant is all about and the different categories and how much of that. So that's probably not too much to check in on there. We did minutes there, and then we talked briefly that we're going to need help writing up any kind of grant applications for the fire department, and we would probably try to reach out to the fire chief who had done the assessment report of the fire department, and I will do that. And then Diana, you had a couple of updates on what the church was looking to do for mini splits and also the community outdoor movies, and you guys were going to check in on that, and that was basically the sum total of the minutes. So does anybody have any comments, changes, corrections?
I move that we... Oops, sorry.
No,
go ahead. Diana?
I was just going to move that we approve the minutes.
Right.
And I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Okay. So before we jump in with the COA, and Diana, you might have to leave. You said I'd like to just give you a minute to do this update on the notion of the outdoor movie scenario or how that's working out with the library. You were working on that with the director of the library?
Yes. Well, we did quite a bit of research or footwork, and we determined an outdoor movie license, as Dan LaValle also informed us, is very expensive. For a while, they were allowing libraries that had an indoor license to use it outdoors as well, but during the pandemic, but that ended. So to show one movie outdoor, the license is at least $400. So, whereas a year indoor license for unlimited movies is $550. And so Johanna thought that was really just the way we should go right now. She also wasn't quite clear what the library doing an outdoor movie in the park had to do with the library anyway. But even though other libraries have done it. So we talked to different places, Northampton Media, East E-Media, and we finally got a quote this was when we were still looking for the outdoor pop-up screen from a place. I talked to Party Patrol. They sent me to Parrots Pop-Ups, which is based in Chicopee. And they have an outdoor movie screen. But when we went away from that, they still have like a new projector and a sound system. And that to rent that would be $125 per event. And they would run it, I think. But Megan Gentile also volunteered to help with any of the technical aspects when we get around to it. So last Friday, Johanna and I submitted I think the deadline was like yesterday or today. So we did it on Friday to the local cultural council for $1,000 for 3 movies and indoors and a year-long license. And we also said, I mean, it wasn't a difficult application, and we had to say it was going to, increase diversity and stuff like that. And we said that if this works well, then we might apply for a festival permit. Massachusetts Cultural Council has one for like a festival when we could do a movie and a food trucks and stuff like that next year. I think that opens in March, that application. So we won't hear until December what the local cultural council will do. But Johanna was also a little cautious because they use LCC funds for their reading program too, and they count on a grant for that. So she wasn't sure if they'd give 2 to the library, but anyway, we did it. We tried and we learned quite a bit in the process. So
great. Well, I think it's a good idea actually to start with something, maybe a little bit less, ambitious and try it out and test it, like you say, and see what the response is. And if we get an overwhelming response, then that helps build the data pool for, a future grant application.
Yeah.
So I
they
think that's a great idea.
They don't have a big screen indoors at the library, but she didn't really want to put in to buy one because she said they just don't have storage. Didn't want more stuff to store.
Right.
So we'd be stuck with whatever size screen they have there. Northampton Media was helpful telling how it all works, but their prices were a lot higher than for rental. East Hampton Media said they have nothing for rent and very limited staff that could help us. They couldn't guarantee that.
Okay. All right.
So,
good
questions. And I passed on Caitlin's movie ideas, and Johanna liked that. She thought there were lots of cute ideas there. I think it's up to her and the children's librarian to choose the movies.
Oh, for sure. I didn't really think I was going to be the only person.
No.
Well, there were movies in there I hadn't heard of. Yeah. And it's going to be geared toward children. So, yeah.
Great. Well, let's see. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that the local cultural council will look for something different too. I mean, not that would, I would hope that it wouldn't cancel out the reading program at the library. I think that's a challenge, but hopefully they can make some decisions. And I don't know. I never really see a report of how much they give out every year. I honestly don't know.
Oh, that was on the MCC website. It was broken down. The biggest ones were $2,500 to the high school musical, $1,800 to the music series in the park, and some other smaller ones.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And it turns out that SYAA did show an outdoor movie a few years ago at Labrie Field, and they used the license from the school. So I talked to the school from Norris, and they haven't had that license for quite a while either. So who knew that? No.
I will say, just if I could, I know the COA used to have a license, but I because it wasn't used, I think they didn't renew it. But I don't know if Kate I don't know much details about it. I don't know if Kate and Christina have a clue about it.
Just a quickie.
Was it an indoor license, presumably?
Yeah, probably.
Probably. Where does the license come from, just as a point of information?
Well, the main outfit is called Swank Motion Picture Licensing or something. That's the place that the other libraries had used and Northampton Media used. And so, yeah, Kate, Johanna talked to them and I talked to them, and we both got the same answers. Like, nope, you gotta, you can show them in the library. It doesn't matter if you own the video or anything like that. Because if you look closely, they always say for personal use or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, thank you for getting that together with Johanna and at least putting it in. And, you never know. It's the first time we've tried it. But
it was interesting to learn about it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it may just be a springboard for something in the future, too. So, I think that's always a good thing. Great. So thanks, Diana. Appreciate it. All right. So let's then move on to the COA and the SIG grant. I know you guys have had a little little confab going here. I think you had a separate little meeting beforehand with a subcommittee to try and throw out some ideas. So we'll just open it up to you. And am I correct that the letter of intent is in or due today?
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
so whoever wants to lead it off. Christina, Diane, I don't know who. Or Christina or Kate, I don't know who's leading off. Oh, did I lose Christina? Oh no, she's there. Okay, there we go. Just can't see her. Go ahead, Christina, if you want to fill us in.
Yes, the letter of intent is in. It was in last week.
Okay.
So we've met actually twice this independent of this meeting kind of SIG grant committee.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
In the letter of intent, you had to pick how many were there? There was 8. Yeah, 8. I almost forgot. 8 categories that you could have applied to for this grant.
Mm-hmm.
And in the letter of intent, what categories you would be pursuing. It doesn't tie you to it. So we did pick 3 because we still hadn't narrowed it further down. And again, it doesn't tie you to it.
Mm-hmm.
And on yesterday's meeting, which was our second meeting, we did manage to narrow it down to 2, which we believe we are going to apply to both, with the hope that we would, get one or the other at least. And that number 2, which is the Memory Cafe Innovations and Startups, and number 6, development and implementation of outreach and marketing of your COA to older adults and caregivers.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Anyone wants to jump off of that?
Well, I think outside of the categories, so I think the theme that keeps recurrently coming up is technology challenges and how it impacts the day-to-day operations of the Council on Aging, part of which can be addressed through this grant program, part of which may need to be addressed through other avenues. I know you're talking about future Wi-Fi at some point, but knowing that we have an outreach coordinator that doesn't have a computer, we thought it might make sense to apply for a computer for her position in addition to some short-term solution for Wi-Fi, right? Like, or some device that would allow for Wi-Fi access that would also allow for Kate to work somewhere other than the Council on Aging in between the 4 walls. Because there might be the ability or opportunity to do programming somewhere else was one of the ideas. And this is really important for Kate to be able to do her job. So underneath that, I'm going to start with that category. So you either need to, for number 6, which is the development and implementation of outreach and marketing in your COA, you either need to become the talk of the town, getting the community to know about your COA, promoting the COA as the front door, which is like community education, or educate and connect family caregivers. And Kate, I heard you say yesterday that you don't think that this is something that we're going to be able to accomplish within the time frame of the grant.
Yeah, I think between both opportunities for that specific funding item, only having 6 months to try and develop a program, institute it, and then roll it out. I just don't think it's realistic, to be perfectly honest, regarding caregivers. But when Christine and I have chatted, there's some pretty foundational things that we need related to outreach just to get the ball rolling, like the computer, outreach materials, just things in general, so folks know within Southampton and surrounding towns that we are a resource for them. And that way it'll give us a little bit more leeway with marketing materials. So when we are asked to table at different events, we have that available as well. So I think foundationally, it would be good to work with part A of that. And then hopefully the part B and the outreach with caregivers and programming and whatnot will be the next step, hopefully for something maybe next year. But given this short turnaround of the actual grant and when we have to implement everything and roll it out and use the funds, 6 months seemed a little bit tight for that programming. So just given where we're at right now.
So that becomes the talk of the town one is the category. Okay, got it.
And the ideas around that were to support a welcome packet, collecting proactive information about like who our demographics and like the actual people who are in our town. A birthday mailing was suggested, marketing to younger, older adults who say that they might not be old enough to use the senior center, diversifying programming, and like community partners was the other theme that came up that I just wrote down. Congregational church. How can we partner with the pickleball folks? Maybe do some programming at Conant Park. I remember when we were working on the walking path, there was an idea about like a walking program or something like that, or how people wanted to feel more connected to the community. So that was one thing that the grant program was looking for, was who are you going to identify as your community partners to help make your programming successful. So those were just some ideas that came up in the discussion. So that was that category. And then the second category, number 2, just scrolling up, was the memory cafe. So the idea was to, and at least, I don't know if this changed since the conversation yesterday, which is crazy that was yesterday, was about also applying for a computer through the memory cafe innovations. And was that something that you still were interested in being able to do?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more thing to the number 6.
Yes.
Because you started, the first thing you said, which is true, it's basically that we have an outreach coordinator, but she doesn't have the resources to do her job. So it's around that. And we also talked about even trying to get some more hours for Kate, because she works probably double the amount of hours she's paid for. So, because now that she's a Shine counselor, a huge part of her role is now taken up by Shine appointments and such. But we knew that might be an issue if we covered a few more, which we might not even put in the grant, but if we did ask for a few more hours to be covered for Kate, she's currently at 18 hours, and so at 20, she would have to be offered benefits. So that got a little messy. So that might be a side conversation I might have to have with you, Ed, or something about how that may or may not be possible. Because we have a small leeway there, but that is more and more every day presenting itself as an issue. So I just wanted to add that. We've talked a little bit about that for that option too.
Can I ask one quick question? I'm not overly familiar with the Shine program, but I'm aware that it's tied into insurance things and all that stuff, right? Medicare, Medicaid, whatever.
It is, yeah. So it's counseling for Medicare.
Right. No,
yeah.
Understood. But is that is that more seasonal than it is year round, or is it open to people all the time? I mean, I remember my employment had a health month or something. Like you had 2 months or something to change your plan or whatever, and then it was over for the year. So how does it work with Shine? Is it similar or?
Kind of. So, like I've had a bunch of people that are turning 65 this fall, so they would come and see me anyways. Open enrollment just started this past Sunday, goes until December 7th. There is another 3-month open enrollment from January until the end of March, depending on which plans you are for like the Medigap plans. It's an all year round position, to be perfectly honest with you, because even when you turn 65, there's a 7-month window that you can start signing up for things. It's getting people also like set up with their Social Security account, because you can't apply for Medicare until you have your Social Security stuff set up. So it is a full year thing. I absolutely believe that there's going to be busier times. Like even after this morning's meeting, I have 6 new Shine appointments for next week. Each of those go from an hour to an hour and a half, not including the prep time and the wrap up time after. So if though, like I'm only working 18 hours a week, 14 hours of my days next week to just be Shine related. So I think that's a timely thing because it's this time of year and there's a lot of changes with what's going on with mass health and with Medicare in general. But there's a lot of other things I'm hoping to be able to help with. Like tomorrow, I'm going to be meeting with somebody on a SNAP application. Fuel assistance is going to be huge. There was almost 4-hour training today that I need to make up because of the Medicare stuff. So it's busy all around. It's just trying to figure out where the puzzle pieces fit so that I'm not behind a computer and training all the time
Right.
too.
No, understood.
Yeah, so I think kind of to your point, right now it's really busy, but I remember last winter was very busy for other reasons too, but within the absence of having a Shine counselor on site. So I think it's a busy time throughout the year, but I know with everything it ebbs and flows too. So
Yeah.
if that answers your question or just leaves it as vague.
No, it does. Yep.
Okay.
That's fine.
And I will say, just to go back to the salary line conversation, we also discussed, even if there's certain hours that we work on outreach specific activities, if we did apply for a salary line, having say 4 hours, if we did like a health fair or an X, Y, and Z or worked on materials, that those 4 hours be charged to say like this type of grant, as opposed to the grant that I'm initially funded on, to try and expand the duration of the initial grant that I was hired under. So if it helps out financially in that respect too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was under the impression that no matter, and I didn't, unless somebody else knows something different, that regardless of what the funding source is, the hours, like you could have worked 18 hours through Shine for that grant program, and then any additional hours beyond 20 without needing to be offered benefits. I mean, that's how it is anywhere I worked. And I just wanted to like confirm that through this meeting, if we're talking, just to make sure that I'm not like incorrect in that. Like her hours would still be over 20, even if they were funded from two different places, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, that's like a labor law thing, not like.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that, like, because I'm like, well, I don't think that you could, even if it was two different funding sources, count it as like two different sources of part-time employment because they're both through the senior center.
Right. And I think if there's a way, even just for 6 months, to charge a different account for like my type of salary, it's going to make the initial funding source that much, I don't know, maybe an extra couple weeks at some point until that runs out. So,
yeah.
What was that?
But the goal would be to have you have more hours paid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we are at the 20-hour is the mark for benefits, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So what does it actually entail once benefits hit? Because obviously there are the obvious things like insurance and such, which she wouldn't be taking. But what are the costs just in general that would be added?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, don't we add like about a 30%?
It is. It's a 30% limit. The terms are described in the actual grant application. It says, where did I find that? I know I put it in here somewhere.
I think when
it says allowable costs include salary, fringe benefits capped at 30%, mileage reimbursement, and rent, utilities, or phone. So you are able to apply for
right. No, I was asking
benefits.
if she went over 20 hours, what costs all of a sudden kick in?
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Like, is it really?
Ed, you want to mention it's going to be insurances basically, right?
But she wouldn't
the benefits we usually figure out across the town about 35% over what the wage of the salary is.
Right, but if someone doesn't take the insurance, what is the cost? That's what we're talking about.
If you had insurance on your husband's policy or something and you didn't need the insurance,
so
that would probably. I see. Yeah. I don't know if we know that percentage, but I'm sure that those plans are able to be done. People don't always take all the insurance that the town might offer them. Yeah, if they have insurance elsewhere.
So that's why so maybe we don't have an answer, but I'm putting it out there that really I would be interested to know what it would actually cost, knowing that she wouldn't take any kind of insurance, what it would cost.
Would Jen be the best person to ask Ed on that?
Yeah, but I'll just throw it out there that, okay, any individual at any particular time may not need health insurance. That could change tomorrow. Or with the next person that comes into the position. So that's always calculated in.
Well, this is only going through June, so hopefully there's no change, but.
Mm-hmm.
The other question that came up, and Ed, maybe you can help us with this, is about who we would get a quote for a laptop or two laptop. I think we'd actually have to get two quotes for, right? Because we're doing this through two applications. How we would be able to get a quote for a laptop for the outreach position and one for the council on aging for programming, like hybrid programming.
And for programming, you don't need anything as robust as, Kate would need as the outreach coordinator. In fact, we may have one coming back that we could just transition over there. I'll get you a quote. I'll get you a quote on something very similar to what Christina and I and the other department heads are currently using.
Okay, great. And that would come from, is it Whaley? There's someone in Connecticut.
No. Yeah, well, I can get it from a couple different places, but because it would need to get set up, added Microsoft 365 and what have you to it, I'd get it from Novus in Connecticut.
Novus. Okay, so Ed will see.
We definitely would want something compatible with our current system that we've just been working on. So
right, because basically what it's going to do, it's going to replace the desktop computer that she's currently using.
Okay.
Kate, you're shaking your head on that. Did you just shake your head?
I mean, when you say that, we wouldn't get the desktop computer removed because there's going to be other staff that'll be working on that.
Yes, you would. Yeah, so we only have so much infrastructure in jacks, so this is going to have to plug into the jack that desktop is to go to the server.
Okay,
Yeah.
I understand that, but for the programming laptop, that's for us to be able to stream on the computer in the actual activity space for us to provide hybrid programming. So that shouldn't replace a computer, but
no, that one wouldn't.
Okay, but even my computer, we have two staff members working, or will have two staff members working on the computer in the office, and then one staff member working out front like a majority of the time. So even if I got a new computer, it shouldn't be replacing something. It should be in addition to.
It's going to have to replace because we only have so many jacks to go through. And I'm not going to go through the infrastructure challenges and whatever, but that's what would have to happen.
If we got a MiFi, so I'm just throwing this out there because this is something we did talk about, to be able to do outreach and work outside of the COA and go, do programming maybe elsewhere. The idea was maybe to find a way to get a MiFi or some sort of like wireless device. Would that allow for that other computer? Well, despite the infrastructure challenges, and I understand that, but would that help to like at least temporarily overcome that?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
A MiFi? Like it's just like a hotspot.
Hotspot.
Yeah, no, we don't have secure Wi-Fi here, so we're not going to utilize that until we do.
It wouldn't be through the town. It would be like a Verizon. It'd be like a cell phone. It'd be like to hook a computer up through, not through the town hall.
We'd have to look at that further. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the intricacies of the infrastructure and hooking up right now.
Just to mention though, one of the reasons also was for her to have a laptop, because there's more people than computers, so that she could work at the same time when someone else is on that computer in the office. So again, we weren't looking at it as a replacement. We were looking at it as a way to have an additional computer for the amount of people we have. And also on outreach, she would be going out. And she would bring a laptop with her, so she wouldn't be hooked up in the COA at all times.
And that would be the laptop.
We have certain infrastructure constraints, and we have to live within those.
But the laptop that we could get through a grant could be what you're saying is that could be plugged in when it's at the center, but it would have to be plugged into an existing jack that would mean that somebody else,
just like mine is, and Christina's is, and everyone else's is.
yeah, that something is not, yeah, somebody else would not be able to be, not all four people could be working at the same time is what I think I'm hearing.
Correct.
In the COA, but maybe that's even part, I think we were talking about, like, how do we phrase this? Like, we know that we're going to be in the current COA for several years, potentially 4 or 5 years. We know that these immediate infrastructure challenges can't be addressed. Like, we need to come up with a way to make it workable for the time frame, like for the immediate future, so that our outreach coordinator that we have in a position can effectively do her job. Like, I actually feel like it's a pretty strong argument that would support either being able to work outside of the Council on Aging, or, you know, at least have technology where you can move around, right? Like to have a laptop where you're not fixed to a particular location.
Her job, the current situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge will be to not, if you have the laptop and you're moving out. I mean, I'm thinking of others like the conservation agent, for example, that probably has his own laptop. I don't know that he's hooked into the server, you know. So I mean, you would have to have, I assume, some sort of separate backup for your files. I mean, I think it's a bigger IT challenge than maybe we can all discuss here. It might be better for a separate meeting. Yeah, Ed, sorry.
Well, we will have to have that because it changes what we might apply for.
Right. Okay. Okay.
I just do want to mention that if we do get this laptop, there, like, functionality wise in the office, there has to have that other computer, like the other computer can't go away. So just as we're thinking about the larger conversation, because even so, say Darlene's working on a Wednesday morning, we have somebody out at the front desk, or even not at somebody out at the front desk working. If I have a Shine meeting, I have to bring that laptop to the conference room in order to do the presentation with the Medicare presentation, even if we're not on the internet, just to have the capability to plug in, run through the slides, pull up the resources that I have on the computer right now. And then if we do need to look through plans, I need access to the internet. It's not that we're logging into accounts, it's access to a website. Right. So I think it's hard because if I'm doing that for 18 hours a week and we remove a computer, then it's functional, like it's just not going to work. So I just want to put that out there. I know it's a bigger conversation, but.
Yep. Understood. It sounds like we are very limited with our jacks in that room, and that is our problem. And so, okay, can we keep on moving?
Well, I think it would be helpful to understand if we are still able to, or I say we, but like if the Council on Aging is able to apply for a laptop, or if because I mean, that's really half of what we were talking about doing. And then if there was a limitation or inability to apply for additional hours, because I mean, we need to figure that out within the next like 3 weeks.
I mean, I don't see why there would be any prohibition about getting a laptop from elsewhere. Ed said he could get a quote, right?
Yeah.
That we could pay for through a grant, right? And then should there be any extra hours desired put in for over the 18, it would have to be X number of hours times the benefit amounts to be put into the grant request, and all that would have to be the extra. The 18 would be paid under the current whatever situation you have, however that's paid between the other grant and town money, and then anything above 18 and benefits would have to be coming out of another grant, this grant you're talking about. Is that doable, Ed, or not?
Right. And if you got it, you just have to go through the getting a PCF approved for additional hours. Additional hours,
right. Mm-hmm. So it's not impossible the way I'm hearing it. I mean, it's, X number of hours change, whatever those hours you think there might be, whether it's another 4 hours or 6 hours, I don't know. But it would be that plus the benefits that. So your advice, as Ed, is to put in for the 30% benefits, even if not needed. So you've got that cushion?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. So the only limitation, so Christine, I think we would have to figure out how much the laptop is, the limit of this actual category is $10,000, right? So no matter what, we have to think of, there's a $10,000 limit. So whatever we determine, so say if it would be the hourly rate times the number of hours, and I would think we would just need to make it no more than, I can't imagine a laptop is more than like $2,000 or $3,000, but $6,000 or $7,000 because it's only for 6 months, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think we can find laptops at reasonable prices. I mean, maybe. So a couple thousand sounds reasonable.
Right, but like I said, we would have to even have that conversation, and I know it's not now, but have that conversation about how that's going to look for Kate to have a laptop, because again, it changes a lot about what we're asking for. And then there's that separate laptop too that would be for programming out in the main programming area. So,
right, and that's
other equipment that I don't think we need an official quote on, but obviously we need like a webcam and anything that we might need for Wi-Fi. So.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think part of our problem right now in general for town hall is we don't have a secure Wi-Fi. I mean, you'll see it when you sign on. We don't have secure access. I mean, our next step is going to be doing cybersecurity stuff. So that's part of the plan, but it's certainly not in place yet. So. Yeah.
I will say one of the things sorry, Janet, go ahead.
I was just curious if there's a rollout plan for that, or is it just a concept still? The secure cybersecurity.
We've just had an assessment of our entire infrastructure, and they're going to come back with, shall we say, recommendations and costs so that we have those both for budget cycles and grants.
Kate?
Oh, so I was going to say is one of the other things that we're working as part of the outreach stuff is outreach related materials and a mailing. So I'm working on getting some quotes on that, even just like with color copies, what a mailing would look like. Lucy provided some numbers in terms of how many folks we have that are 60 and older in town. So if we did a targeted mailing, what it would be, and that way we can hopefully do something within that 6 months that has the outreach impact on it. But also, if we do make copies and do have brochures available, it'll be more evergreen than just that 6 month window for the grant. So that'll be in the cost estimate as well.
Okay. All right. So how complicated is the actual application? I know you've got to have a separate budget and budget narrative. Are there lots of questions that have to be answered in terms of the demographics of town or those kinds of things? I mean, where do we need to go to help you get it done?
Do you want me to do a screen share? Because I kind of started putting together.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks,
yeah,
Kate.
You can. Did you set up a Google Drive to work in, Kate, or?
Yeah. Yes. Did I not share it? I thought I did.
You might have before, yeah, Kate.
Okay, so I'll share, I can reshare it, but I'll just do a quick screen share. So
yeah, there was something I saw, but it was basically that, just the some of the particulars of the instructions about the grant. I didn't see any application form, but maybe I didn't look all the way.
There's really not. It's a 3-page narrative and a budget template. So
okay.
I took all of our previous notes and some helpful links, and yesterday we talked about how there's a lot of push nationally or, in this Council on Aging business to work on hybrid programming. So I pulled together some additional resources that hopefully will be useful in helping us to write the narrative for whatever we decide that we're going to apply for. I also included the links to the Southampton Senior Center feasibility study because we talked about how there might be some useful data that we can pull into the application to support. There's a lot of information about express preferences from residents, some challenges that the current site has because of whatever space, internet, whatever it might be. So I put links to everything in here, and this is obviously a working document. Also included the notes from the bidders conference from September 27th. So all that information is here. And then we talked about applying for Memory Cafe Innovations and Startups, which was number 2. And then we decided not to apply. I didn't delete it yet, for number 4. So if we do, we would just do, actually, you know what? I'm just going to take this right out because we're not going to apply. We're going to do 2 and 6. So these are the things that the text in blue was some of the brainstorming that has been done, and the actual information from the presentation. Like the Memory Cafe Innovations and Startups are designated to support growth and expansion, creation of new programming, increasing language or cultural capacity. Like these are the things that they want to see in an application. And these are some of the ideas that we came up with when we were chatting about writing the application. So this is the budget template. And I started, like, I used the formatting that they asked for to draft like it's a 1-page budget template. So you fill in the category, amount, if there's any in-kind donation, and then details. And then it's a 3-page narrative. So what I did was I took all the questions that they want to have answered within the application and put it at the top. And then it's just literally a 3-page narrative. And so I said, once we narrow down what we want to apply for, we'll be able to just make sure that we address all of these things through the application. So that it doesn't have to be like a paragraph about concise, detailed description about how we're utilizing the staff and a separate paragraph about who, what, where, when, why. But we just want to make sure that while we're writing the application, that these are the things that they specifically wanted addressed in the narrative. It's the same thing. So you'll see here the budget template and the 3-page narrative for the second application, which would be the development and implementation of the outreach and marketing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is just a working document that people can add to. And I said it would be really helpful to figure out the scope of what we're applying for, because I really feel like that will be critical in helping us to start writing the narrative.
Well, and I'm wondering too if it would be helpful, given that you've got to do 2 applications, whether it'd be helpful to have 2 teams, to divide up work on it, or whether the writing would be different enough that it might be more advantageous to have the same people putting the narrative together. I don't know, on both applications. So just a question. Because I know you had another work group, right, with some other people that aren't here in this meeting, right, that were helping out.
That's true.
So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but
that's a good, actually, that's an interesting thought. To have maybe, Kate, it seems like a lot of outreach coordination pertains to you, right? Like maybe a couple people could work on that application, and then a few different people could work on the Memory Cafe Innovations and Startups. And I will say, we went through the notes of our previous brainstorming about the Memory Cafe. We actually done a lot of thinking about programming and partners, and all that information is in the beginning of this application. I actually think that might be the easier part for looking for programming funding. We have a lot of ideas there already.
Well, maybe start with that one as that. I mean, I think there was a lot of pre-work put into that application for Highland Valley, for sure. A lot of anticipated partnerships, a lot of ideas of other community entities that could be, partnering in on the Memory Cafe. And some of those I think we started to take advantage of, and others I know we had tried to work a little bit with Westhampton, or intended to, and I'm not sure that really came about as fully as expected, for example. But there were other things. I know you brought in some stuff from Armbrook and various other resources around that could be helpful on a Memory Cafe too, not just music and other kinds of entertainment, but more educational as well, or other activities, I guess. So I don't know. I just want to, keep us moving here, and we've got. I have another meeting at 3, so I do want to not delay us too long here. What would anybody want to do? Sounds like we need a mini meeting on just the technical issues. But what I'm hearing, I think, is that we could apply for a laptop. There may be another laptop that can be reprogrammed from somebody else in town hall, is what I'm understanding, Ed. And
Correct.
And then part of the grant could talk about, for the outreach, could talk about extra hours and benefits, but first step would be to go to PQB to get extra hours approved beyond the current level.
So would it come after we got the grant, if we get the grant, or do we have to get it pre-approved before we get the grant? Because that's
kind of catch-22. I mean, it would be ideal to do it, but PQB does not meet all that often.
It might be easier to get it approved if we say we have the money from a grant to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Might work at the back way around. It might be easier. Yep.
If we can then not lose a month after we get the grant, waiting for that to be approved through our system.
Right. What remind me when they were talking about notifying on grant approvals? Was it December or December? That's what I was thinking.
It's a very quick turnaround because they want you to expend the funds within, what did they say? Notice of funding.
Probably by end June, most likely, fiscal year. Yeah.
Applications are submitted November 9th and contracts are, so award notification will happen Thursday, November 30th. And contracts have to be signed by December 7th.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So could that be like a concurrent process? Like, I'm just thinking instead of waiting to see if we get the grant to say it, could we like start the paperwork and get it on an agenda? Because you have to sign the contract and agree to spend the money. It's almost like it needs to happen at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we could put on the request that it's, it's dependent upon the grant award, and not, in the language.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're waiting to get the money, but we're saying it's dependent upon getting the grant award or whatever. So.
Right.
And if that happens, and thank you for bringing up is it PBB?
Yeah.
PBB.
Yeah, they're meeting again. They're meeting tomorrow, actually.
Yeah, tomorrow, but that's not going to happen.
No, and then
maybe probably like a month and a half after.
Then they'll meet sometime in November, but we don't know when.
We could get it in by November, the November meeting probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe the next step would be for Christina to work with Jen, you said, Chris, about the actual calculation of what the hours and the fringe.
Well, I mean, if we just put in the standard 30%, which is the maximum we can do. I mean, Ed said 35% for town is what we figure. If the grant requires 30% maximum,
30% maximum,
it may be easier just to put in that amount of money. And then, if we get it, we get it. And then, once we figure out whether, Kate would need to take all the benefits, then, maybe some of that money could be used differently or something in the grant. I mean, I don't know if Kate's got it broken. I mean, if Jen has got it broken down into somebody, she'd have to find some employee that, is not taking the insurance, is on their spouse's insurance or something, which I'm sure there are some, but I don't know how much. I don't have a sense of how big that percentage is to really get into that nitty gritty, honestly, and maybe easier just to put in for the 30%.
So I feel like the cost of everything else is going to determine how much money you have for those hours, right? Your welcome packet, your printing costs, the cost of the laptop, right? So maybe we start there and try to figure that out first and say, okay, well, we have up to $10,000. We have 5 left, right? What does that translate into for hours and a fringe benefit and
kind of back into it? Yeah. Just for budgeting purposes, until we could get a quote, Ed, is $2,000, $2,500 for laptops sound reasonable?
Just give me a day, please.
Yeah. Okay. I was just going to plug in a temporary number just for budgeting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Novus is perfect. Thanks, Diana. Appreciate it.
I've already sent the email for the quote.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, very good.
So that's
Thanks.
nice to know that it's a quick turnaround.
Yeah. No,
Well, if I don't do it now, by an hour from now, I will have totally forgotten about it, the way my brain overwhelmed lately.
Yeah. So we could get that. That'll be a chunk of it anyway. And then if you've got a sense of, mailing costs, if it's got to be a separate mailer and all those kinds of things. And given our postage these days, depending on how you mail it, whether it's envelope or just, pre-stamped or, whatever, those kinds of things. There's all sorts of ways to get things mailed out. And we've done various ones in town. Some are heavier than others in terms of the card stock that are used, and others are, more simple paper, stuffed in an envelope. So however you choose to do those kinds of things.
So maybe Kate, you could try to get a quote on what, like an estimated cost of what you're going to need for printing for the next 6 months.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. And then that'll hopefully give us, then Christina can work on a calculation for the hours.
Yep. I'm almost done with an initial draft of that newsletter. So now that I know how many pages it'll be easier to get that information. So.
Okay. Good.
Okay. And then for the actual, like, working on the application, I'm not opposed to Chris's idea of dividing and conquering.
But it sounds like we've got the most information, though. I mean, I do tend to agree that with all the brainstorming we had done on the memory cafe, it might be easier just to get a head start on something and get some words down on paper so we can get a sense of the flow of what that's going to look like, and then while we're gathering this other information, I mean, maybe start on the memory cafe one.
Yeah, and I think honestly, what you want to do with this. Like, Kate, yeah, you have all the ideas about what you'd like to see in terms of changes. I feel like maybe starting to write down exactly what you said about these are the things that we learned through doing this memory cafe. This was some of the feedback that we received, and this is how we're going to use that information in order to whatever continue this program. It's not even like start up. It's right. It's continue the programming for another 6 months, right? How can we extend it? And you can say people wanted to see the programming continue. And in fact, people were disappointed that it was stopping, right? So like, I think we actually do have a lot of information we can use towards that narrative. And I think we can start it right in that shared Google document, right? Just like,
sort of extend and improve upon the earlier attempts or something at the memory cafe. Yeah.
I will say we had to do like a feedback survey for Highland Valley in terms of the memory cafe in general. So Christina and I already have a starting point in that respect in terms of like reflecting and looking back on what we did before and kind of what we want to change. That at least started those conversations as well. So we can start pulling some stuff together. I have a ton of handwritten notes. So Friday's my day to start typing things up and I can put it in for everybody to review. So in that Google Doc.
Okay. And then Kate, your notes from the brainstorming on the Highland Valley is one of those links in that shared drive, right?
I put everything in that one document because I was like trying to go through I'm like, there's way too many different documents and too many different places. And there's also been different people on the call, right? So
yeah. Okay.
I tried to make it so all of them were viewable by any participant. And I think I shared it with everybody, but I might have missed some, I'm hoping I didn't miss anybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, if not, somebody else can forward it around. But I know I did see it now that you mentioned it. I did see it. I just didn't scroll down into it all the way.
Yeah. It's the first page is just like
right. So shall we, do you want to meet again relatively soon, like in a week, just to sort of touch base and see how this is going, or what's reasonable?
I think we need to, because I still feel like we really need to hone in on what our ask is, because I have a really hard time writing to a narrative about like justifying why we're applying for something without knowing exactly what we're asking for. And I feel like that's
okay. So how about if I set up a meeting for a week from today, same 2:00-ish is good time for everybody, or is that on the 25th? That's wait a minute. Is that right? Hang on. What day is today? 18th? Yeah. It would be the 25th.
2:00, as long as we can try to keep it to an hour. It's just really hard.
It's Wednesday, we're meeting at 3, right? For the sick. So maybe it doesn't make sense.
Is there something at 3? Sorry, Christina.
Oh, I put their meeting at 3 for this. Could we just do that? Do you want to do that as like a?
We could do the grant meeting at 3 if you want, if that's better. Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry.
That's fine. I noticed that I had a meeting on my schedule, but yeah. So why don't we do it at 3 together?
In person with the SIG grant people at 3.
Oh, I see. Yes. And I was going to zoom in. Do you want to do Thursday? Or the following week?
I think pushing it out another week is going to cut yourself a little close. I don't know.
Yeah, I keep cutting out.
Yeah, so we're just trying to schedule another meeting, Christina, either the 25th or the 26th. And what we've done in the past is we've got, we would have the document, the Google shared drive up and just, so whatever edit has been done, people could kind of go through and look at edits and make comments and do a little bit of writing by committee to a certain extent, minimal, because that can be crazy. But it would be good to at least have a backdrop of a brief narrative to start working from, rather than just talking in theory about it. So the more we can get something on paper, the more clear I think ideas can become.
Mhm.
So I think we need to talk about the tech stuff before we can go any further in writing the grant.
Well, I think we can start, we do simultaneously. I think we can start on the Highland Valley part. I mean, the Memory Cafe part one, where we have a lot of information already to start putting some of that narrative on paper. So in between time, in the week, we can talk more about, the clarity. We'll have the quote on the laptop from Ed within the next 24 or 48 hours and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have some of that information before we could meet again next week. It's just a matter of whether you prefer Wednesday or Thursday, and pick a time.
So Thursday, because we're meeting Wednesday about the 6th, so it would be good to meet after that.
Okay.
I can do Thursday in the afternoon, like early afternoon.
Yeah. Okay.
Anytime early afternoon works.
The only conflict I have a 2 p.m. Shine appointment on Thursday afternoon, but I'm available the rest of the day.
So you've got them at 2 p.m. Is that what you said? Or
yeah, Shine appointment scheduled that afternoon.
We do 12 to 1, 12:30 to 1:30. Anything is fine.
Could we do an 11 o'clock? Is that too early?
No, that's fine.
I have a meeting at 11 and I'm running the meeting, so I have to be there.
Yep. Okay.
You do 10?
10?
I don't know how I have so much open time for meetings next Thursday. It's kind of weirding me out.
Yeah, 10 works.
Okay.
Okay. I'll set up something for 10 on the 26th.
Right.
Okay. All right. Let's do that and see where we go from there. Okay. And then in the meantime, if there are other people that you guys want to drag in, the Dennises and the Teds or Susans or Cynthias or whomever else, do so. I mean, by all means.
Yeah, I don't know if we get too many people on this meeting. If we
No, I know. No, I'm in for a little mini work group to work on stuff, to put some words on paper. Working from the ideas that Kate had already put out in that link to sort of flesh that out into some narrative and make it cohesive a little bit. So, okay. So with that, I do have to let us go here. I've got this other meeting coming up and I know Janet, you're in it too. So could I have a motion to adjourn this meeting, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. I'll second that. And I guess we will vote to adjourn at 3:01. Thanks, everybody.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.